So we're not so keen on the inferences, but how many observations were there? Close. There were 5. Okay? So when we go through and the first observation was what? Something about reproductive cells. Or gametes. A great number of gametes are produced. Okay? So, what's another part of that first observation, though? Just because an animal is born does not mean that they're going to survive long enough to do what? Reproduce. That's still part of the first observation. The second one, think of something like this. Populations will fluctuate in size. That's the second observation. Okay? And one way to backing up that not all individuals survive, cannibalism can have a role in that. Many different environmental factors can have a role in that. Oddly enough, when the behavior of some reptiles, yes, they may eat offspring of their same species, where different types of, let's say, some of your big cats, okay, lions are known for this, when they're herding off a rival member for pride, if that alpha male then is defeated, okay, so he leaves that territory, the new lion comes into the pride, what probably happens? They kill the young. They don't eat them, they don't consume them, but they get rid of the offspring. Why would he do that? Do what? Yeah, so those offspring are his, and that causes the females to go into a reproductive mode again. Okay, so then the second observation was that populations can fluctuate in size. So those can be different environmental factors, but usually it's a prey item that is no longer available. So if that happens, the population can crash, and then whatever predator feeds on that prey item would probably crash too. So populations fluctuate in size. Probably the most important one that we believe is the third observation, because that is what? Yeah, resources are very limited, and there's a struggle for what? Food and shelter. Okay? So then I think it goes off onto the first inference that, what is it, maybe not all survival is at random, or I know that's one of the inferences. And we're not too concerned about that for your exam on Friday. We want to make sure we know what the observations were. Then we did the Sheldon experiment with observation 4. Okay? No two individuals are what? Look exactly like, and they would not act the same either. And just think about that. Would you want another one of you around? Well, you're supposed to say yes. But the problem with that is maybe they would not act the same. And see, that gives you the opportunity to say, it wasn't me, it was that other ding-dong. Maybe yes, maybe no. So again, that's observation number 4. Then we said for some people, it's that 5th observation that you might find the most annoying. Okay? And some of you were nodding your head yes, that yeah, I see that, or I hear that a lot, that you look just like your mom, you look just like your dad. That's observation number 5. We move on then to Okay, so this is where we left off with yesterday. Okay. Ooh, that would be tough to read, wouldn't it? Okay. All right. So we had left off with this inference. So now we begin with the process. I believe I saw it was what, speciation. Okay. So what would happen then is, think of that elephant again. An entirely new species had the opportunity to occupy a new niche. Okay. So the changes between the two animals occurred long enough that a new species can form. Okay. And then in this case, that geographical separation then can even just be a mountain range. In some cases, it might even just be a road or a river or anything to that effect. Or this continental drift can cause speciation. I think for those of you who had our biology class here, when we talk about this in the evolution chapter, they're called the reindeer of Svalbard, I believe. What had happened is, really don't know when, but part of the mainland had broke off, and then what had happened is some of the reindeer had migrated to this island of what we call Svalbard. And that was going to be an advantage for them because on the mainland there's wolves. I don't really picture, yes, dogs can swim, but would they by choice maybe go through a cold water channel to an island? Answer to that is probably not. They could, but in this case they didn't. So reindeer that had migrated from the mainland to this island then, once they are there, their population can take off, possibly. Yeah, there's lots of food, there's lots of resources, but mainly there's nothing to do what to them? To kill them, to eat them, to consume them. That's right. Okay? So when we look at these two examples, do we remember from biology and genetics what's the difference between a genotype and a phenotype? I don't remember. That was 2 years ago. That was 1 year ago, or what have you. Does everyone want to take a guess? Genes, isn't that what I have on right now? Well, none of you. Well, 3 of you do. You are correct. I mean, I always say, well, you hit the dartboard, you didn't quite hit the bullseye. This is just right outside the circle of the bullseye then. Okay? So what you had said, what you're actually observing then, like you had correctly said, is your phenotype. That's what you're actually looking at. The genotype then is it's not so much the genes or the chromosomes, which the DNA wraps itself around the chromosomes that you inherit from your parents. Yes, that is the genotype. Okay? So what we see happening then when we're talking about this cohesion, okay, is just the idea that you're always going to have these common ancestors, whether it's the pygmy elephant, the African elephant, the Asian elephant, the mammoth, the mastodon. They all have a common ancestor. But once a type of niche was opened up, maybe they had to grow hair. Lots of it. Obviously, who's that? The woolly mammoth. Some of them had to be small. We had observed that. That was the house elephant. Okay? So if these different types of, there's still cohesion with one another, it's just the idea that you still have this common ancestor, okay? So yes, with this common ancestor, you're still going to have recompatibility, but eventually, once they divert far enough apart from one another, then it's no longer a viable mate. So that's when a new species then will arise. And the reason for that is they are meeting the demands of their environment. Okay? That's what we talk about in regards to speciation. I guarantee you that's one of your questions that was handed out yesterday. And it probably talked about the 5 observations and the inferences. There you just list them off, one right after another. And then the other one's probably dealing with species selection. And when we talk about species selection, it's going to be the idea of the female not predicting, but choosing a mate. Okay? So, for instance, maybe it's something like the Bowers bird. For some reason, that comes out in my mind. Of course, everyone knows the peacock story. Well, not the story, but what they do is the plumage of their feathers, where they are displaying, man, I've got the most vibrant colors. I've got all my feathers, so chances are, look at that guy over there. He's missing a feather or two, and they're not quite as bright. What might that indicate? That a female is looking at them. Why would the one missing the feathers and maybe not quite as vibrant colors, why would he not be picked? Because the one with the really bright colors is probably illustrating good what? Good genes, good health to pass them on to the offspring. So a female is going to tend to pick that male then. Okay? So then sometimes we can pick on humans and say, who's the best dancer in here? So is this where you fit in? I mean, you get all the chicks because you're the best dancer? You okay? You I don't know, do one things where you spin on your shoulder, or I don't know if you call it break dancing or what, but you don't do the splits, do you? As long as you do the right stretches. You got to do the right stretches. If you don't do that, you could hurt yourself. Might land on your head or something. Well, doing all these shoulder twirls, and then you jump up and you do the splits, and yeah. So everyone here, they carry these around. They got the note cards because they're watching Alex, and then they make note of that on their note cards and what they should be doing. Or then they're thinking, gosh, can you come over to my place and show me those moves? Is that right, Alex? So what's your hourly rate? You don't, you got to be in the inner circle. Are these people in your inner circle? Oh, okay. So there's no one that's on the blacklist that's outside your inner circle. You're not just saying that, are you? Okay. Well, come on, you got to stay on top of this. You know, you got a viable source of income here. Oh, okay, oh, you didn't do the right stretches. Okay, all right. Well, it's a good thing you have, what is it, about 6 months until prom? 7 months. Let's see here. We could just say it's the middle of April, because we're, not quite in the middle of September, so October, November, December, January, February, March. Yeah, it's about 7 months away. Okay? All right. Well, who's, is it Sean letter T or Sean Teague? Is that, he does the dancing, because he was an ex-Marine, I think. Does this sound, I thought maybe you were nodding your head. Yes, that was, no, not Mr. T. I want to say it's Sean T. Um, it wasn't the P90X. It's after that. Is it the Insanity work? I think that's Sean T. No, because in some of the commercials, I think a tattoo on his forearm that looks like it's definitely from the Marines. No, not Shawn Mendes. Yes, that is the guy right there. What's the history on him? I want to say that I think he's a Marine. Used to be. Now it's going to come up. No, he never even served. I don't know. No military history. Okay. Well, I can always look that up later. But like I said, I thought there's some military history with that. 'Cause I was going to say, look out, he's going to have some competition here. So, where do you even go to school for that to pass that knowledge on? Yeah. You're going to have to get some exercise science because you can't just say, I did this in high school. Okay. Okay. Anyway, so what goes through your minds when you hear things like that? Because you have heard that before, where people claim to be veterans and they're not.
I mean, if they're claiming to be veterans, that's just messed up. If they have like a military, but like if they had military tattoos, it could be like
That look cool.
it could be like you're supporting the flag.
Oh yeah, that could be.
Or yeah, or it could just
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Some of the videos we watched are yeah,
See?
if it's false, but if it's stolen valor,
then you're walking around like say like in your uniform or whatever, or just that's just
Because typically you guys don't like talking about it. I think even your drill sergeants. I mean, that might be a little different, but guys back in your unit, especially if you're one where actually we're in a firefight, I really don't think they like talking about it. Probably not. That could be. So, we don't have all the answers on this side of the aisle. Say that we claim we do, or maybe we try to make it sound like we do, but yeah, we don't have all the answers either. Okay, so those are our rituals. Our social structuring, then, you can look at that is probably the most common example for that would be who or what. Think of a college up in Aberdeen. Northern what? Northern State? Northern State? You're going to hit yourselves over the head when you're told this. I knew that. Northern State who? Don't Google it. The Wolves, yes, Northern State Wolves. Okay? This isn't the only example that we would talk about as far as the social structuring for that of, let's say, being the one that mates with the females. Yes, you're going to have your leader in a wolf pack, but we just talked about this more than, well, probably more than 5 minutes now. But when it comes to prides, okay, when a rival lion knocks another one off, it probably kills the offspring to cause the females to want to mate again, okay? So social structuring, whether it's a wolf pack or whether it's a pride of lions, that's an example of, again, social structuring. So then migration patterns, we really don't associate those with mammals, okay? Yes, there are mammals that migrate, but that's over in Africa, because we really don't have mammals that migrate here because we just don't have the herds for it.
We got deer migrating.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so we got those, but I was always thinking domestic herds like you got over in western side of the state, they call it the buffalo roundup or whatnot. And I guess I don't know the behavior of is it mule deer or white-tailed deer? I guess I don't know whether they migrate north.
They,
Okay.
usually when harvest kind of comes, that's when they start migrating.
Okay. I guess that's a movement, but when we talk about migrations, what comes to your mind in distance though? Yeah, we're talking thousands of miles as opposed to just a few. So migration patterns, yes, that's definitely evident with that of geese. I believe they fly. Yes, they fly south, obviously for the winter, and that is to the feeding grounds. Then they fly. Well, no, it's to the breeding grounds to the south, I believe. Then to the north, it's to the feeding grounds. So, okay, it's possible. But when we're talking about these migration patterns, why is it going to be an advantage to be one of the first ones down there? You get the best spot. That's right. So whether it's looking the best, okay? Okay. Then we've got our social structuring, your wolf pack or your lions then, and then your migration patterns. We associate those with birds. And then again, even when we get into this, okay, especially when it comes to game birds in this state, and I think you know the answer to this, whether it's a rooster or a male duck, why are the females, you could say, so blah? I mean, why are they not so vibrant in color? Yeah, it's better camouflage. They more so blend in with their surroundings if they are just a type of brown color. And that's obviously very evident with the hens in pheasants, and I suppose you could say the hens in mallards then too, because then you don't see the what, teal green crest on their head. Of course, that's very a mallard-like characteristic. Okay. So species selection. Okay. So these are your three main concepts that we would want to associate that of species selection. And we're getting close to the end. This is perhaps the last one. Okay. So through the course of what we consider recorded history, there are approximately, we believe, 10 mass extinctions. Okay, and most recent then was back in, I believe, back in the Jurassic time frame. Excuse me. So even with that size video, you can set aside perhaps the idea that the meteorite hit. Now, would things have gone on as normal? Yes, probably, but why was being small such an advantage? Yeah, you can hide out at night, and you don't have to bring in as much prey items. So, being big, there were still dinosaurs that lived after that meteor strike, but it's just the idea that once your food source fell and you couldn't take in enough of the nutrients that you need, then those animals died off then too. Okay, and then when that happens, that's where you have this idea of the mass, or should say a mass extinction. And at one point, one of them was called, I believe, the Great Dying, okay, time frame. And that's when we believe that as many as 90% of the known species on Earth had gone extinct. I don't know if that's in here. Let me just quickly take a peek. Oh, I'm in an ecology chapter. No wonder. Okay, so I just want to kind of read through this. You don't need to grab a book just to kind of follow along. We're talking about mass extinction. When we study evolutionary change on an even larger time scale, we observe episodic events in which large numbers of taxa have become extinct nearly simultaneously. These events are called mass extinctions. The most cataclysmic of these extinction episodes happened about 250 million years ago. So when we're talking about this time frame, when is the most common one known for you? Because we just talked about it. The Jurassic time frame, and about 60 to 70 million years ago, but this was 250 million years ago. Okay. It says the most cataclysmic of these happened about 250 million years ago, when at least half of the families of shallow water marine invertebrates and fully 90% of marine invertebrate species disappeared within a few million years. This was the Permian extinction. The Cretaceous extinction, which occurred about 65 million years ago, marked the end of the dinosaurs. So those are your two different, probably most common types of where life had vanished or was wiped clean of this earth. So, and who knows? Maybe when's the next one gonna happen? Well, we don't know. Hopefully not anytime soon. But anyway, we will continue with this as far as reviewing tomorrow and Thursday. We'll have your exam then on Friday.